Good morning, everybody. We're going to begin today bringing in an intention, as we have for the past couple days, based on an ancient Kabbalistic teaching that our insight that is generated during prayer is something that we use not only for ourselves, but in service to others. We are preparing for prayer. So with that, we'll say together first in the Hebrew and then in the English, having in mind that when we talk about serving our fellow, loving our fellow as ourselves, it's about giving of ourselves to our fellows, giving to others, and that through that we can actualize the insights that we've generated during this davening. So we'll say together in Hebrew: Hareini, Makabel, Alai, Mitzvahs, Aseh, Shel, Ve'ahavta, L'reacha, Kamocha. I hereby accept upon myself the mitzvah of loving my fellow as myself. And we'll express that not just in words, but in actions as well. And we'll take a coin and we'll put it in our pushka. We have in mind as we do this that we're giving from our vitality, from our livelihood and our sustenance to everybody else, to whom we can affect around us. And as we finish with that, we'll continue and we'll get ready for the Shema. So we said yesterday that there were three parts to Yisrael. Yisrael, the first part, our most basic part of Yisrael, of our experience of being a Jew, is that which we struggle and we strive and we wrestle with God and with other people as well. And that was a name that was given to Jacob after he wrestled with the angel. And it represents the struggles that we experience in this world. And that the struggles are part and parcel of our human experience, but at the same time, we're not defined by our struggles. And that's what we say in the next explanation of Yisrael, is that it's Yashar Kel, that it's straight with God. Because as much as we experience struggles and human experiences, very much a struggled existence, we know that at the same time we're imbued with a divine essence that is our godly soul, and that we're able to transcend that and go straight. And that brings us to the third explanation, which is that the letters of Yisrael spell Li Rosh, which means for me ahead, which means that God's so to speak plan of existence is our individual existence as Jews, meaning that each one of us has a mission and a purpose that God is imminently invested within, and that every day that he gives us is another day for him saying that he believes in our mission, and he's giving us another day to actualize and complete our mission or continue our mission. And that in the spirit of what is taught in the Kabbalah of Seif Mais and Machshav Tchila, that the end action expresses the initial thought, that the goodness and the kindness that we do in this world expresses the initial reason why God created all of existence to begin with. So today, when we talk about Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokeinu, we talk about, this is really the crux of the focus by the Kabbalists when it comes to the meditation of the Shema. In the Kabbalistic language, the way it's called unifying the oneness of God. And this is something that one could meditate for hours and days and months and years on. And this idea is something that we're going to incorporate into really everything we do, based on the story we mentioned yesterday, that every word that we say in davening, we have to sense the oneness in the word, the echad in the word, the one in the word. And also what we said yesterday, that this path is a long, short path. And while there's times that it doesn't necessarily feel like we're making such good progress, but it's not in the steps, it's in the journey in and of itself, and that every day contributes a little bit to cultivating a new realization and a new perspective, a new pair of glasses, if you will, into how we experience our material existence in this world and how to imbue it with godliness. So when we use names of God, particularly the name of Hashem and the name of Elikim, in Kabbalah, they represent two opposite ideas. One is what we call Gilui, which means a revelation or a revealing, and one which means which is connected with Helam or Hester, which means to constrict, which means to cover over and to hide. And generally, we think of the name of Hashem as that which reveals, and the name of Elikim as that which covers over. Hashem, the Kabbalists also call Havaya, which means existence. And Elikim, they teach, has the same numerical value as the word Hatava, which means the nature, right? Nature being that which seems to operate on its own without any outside involvement, right? The sun rises in the east every day and sets in the west. And it doesn't seem like God is creating any great miracles for that to happen. It seems like things just sort of happen on their own. And so Hashem indicates this when we use the term Hashem, it indicates that there is a supernatural experience going on. And when we look at the name of Elikim, we don't see the godliness within it. But yet at the same time, we say in the Shema and throughout the Torah, it tells us that Hashem is Elikim, that they're one and the same. And this is this paradox, this contradiction is something that is really at the focal point of what it means to meditate on godliness and to try to understand, to look past the veil and understand a little bit about the makeup of existence. So there are a lot of examples given as tools, to meditate on this, and we'll discuss a few today. The first is when you think of a teacher and a student. And the example that's given is that a teacher represents the person who has already amassed the knowledge and integrated the knowledge, who is giving it to the uninitiated, that the one who doesn't yet know. And to express something that is very deep and abstract, what is required is to condense the information and condense the notion and the idea in a way that it becomes that the student can interact with it and digest it. And so what we have is, in a process of revelation and a process of revealing, we have a concealment. And so the idea is that where we try to see the interplay between Hashem and Elikim is that concealment we perceive as that which is lessened, and revealment is that which is rated more, right? And where we have to shift our perspective, where the meditation comes in, is trying to understand and trying to make real for ourselves that concealment is also a revelation. And that when we talk about Hashem Elikim as being two opposite forces, they're not two opposite forces in the fact that they oppose each other, but they, in fact, they're opposite in their manner of expression, working in tandem. And it is important for us to get to the bottom of that and to make that real for ourselves, because then we can start to transcend that paradox. We can start to transcend the sort of duality of those, because ultimately we have to always keep in mind that as much as we're talking about revelation or concealment, these are all of our own perspective. And when we talk about the manner in which God relates to creation, it's all based on how we perceive it and how we experience it. But there's a secondary perspective that obviously we can't grasp with our own mind, but the intellectual experience is grasping that we can't grasp, understanding that we can't understand. And that is that there's a godly perspective as well, a so to speak top-down perspective, in which there is no duality of revealing or concealing, of showing or hiding. Because if we think about God, so to speak, by himself, without the consideration of an other, if there's no other, there's no relating to another. And if there's no relating to another, then the duality of either relating in a way of revealing or relating in a way of concealing, neither are relevant anymore. And so the goal of saying Hashem Elikim or Hashem Elikenu in the Shema is to both sense the bifurcated duality of reveal and conceal, and then realizing the unity in revealing and concealing, and that they both express the same deal, and then going a step further to say that all of those are only limited to our perspective, and from God's perspective, so to speak, this duality does not exist at all. And obviously there's a lot to think about there. And that's why this is the ultimate meditation for the Kabbalists, because this isn't a one-time thing. This is the essence of the long short way, and that every day we think about it a little more, and every day we can create a little new insight into what that means for us. So as we prepare to contextualize it in what we've said yesterday and the day before, when we prepare for this exercise of thinking about first the duality, and then transcending the duality, and then transcending the nature of relationships altogether, we have to at the same time see ourselves, see our Yisrael in it, right? We said that one of the explanations of the word Shema means to gather, because we have to gather our essence within that essence. And that's what it means to transcend our limitations and to transcend our material existence, is to gather ourselves up in this ultimate unity and realize how transcendent our essence actually is. So as we prepare, we'll get ready to say the Shema. We said yesterday that the Shema is specifically noted as a seated prayer, because sitting in Kabbalah has to do with settling and focused, as opposed to standing, which has to do more with humility and acknowledgement. But this is specifically the idea of the Shema is specifically in order we sit in order that we can sort of center ourselves in a way of focus that we can guide our focus. And we know that the Shema specifically, Shema is about elevation, and that this idea of gathering ourselves and gathering our disparate selves, our intellect and our emotions, our thought, our speech, and our actions, which, as we wake up this morning, feel fragmented. The idea of gathering them all together to feel their unified essence in the Hashem Elikim paradigm, or paradox, excuse me, that is a process of elevation. And that's why we say that Shema stands for Su Mara Meinechem, to lift up your eyes. So we'll sit and we'll get sort of comfortable, and we will cover our eyes. And we cover our eyes not because there is anything wrong with this world, not because this world is bad or evil, God forbid, but because the nature of materiality is that it expresses itself, right? It expresses, each thing presents itself as a thing. And to transcend to transcend the falsehood of interacting with the world as things, we need to shut ourselves off from it for a moment. And we need to say that as much as this world manifests as entities that are self-generated, I'm going to create an atmosphere in which I can recognize and I can realize that there is a unity to all of it. So as we cover our eyes and we prepare, and we feel ourselves seated as an effort to focus our mind, we start to hone in on the elevation that we're about to embark on by saying the Shema. And we focus on how there is a process of revealing and there is a process of concealing, and we go through the example, like the example of the student and the teacher. And in our mind, we start to see past the duality of opposing forces. And as we get to a place where we see, where we perceive revelation and concealment as working in tandem, we start to embrace an essence or recognize an essence that transcends all definitions and limitations. And while we know we can't grasp this essence, we can have some mental interaction with knowing that it exists. And with that, we'll say together, as we're creating a new reality for ourselves, taking a moment to detach from materiality in a process of rebirthing our consciousness, we'll say together the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And we continue for a moment with our eyes still covered as we focus on the oneness, the Echad. And we try to peer past the duality that seems to contradict and feel oneness of our essence as being unified with the ultimate essence. And we uncover our eyes and we re-embrace the world anew. And we look around at whatever we might see. There's a pigeon that just landed on my windowsill. And we try to take this insight that we've birthed anew, that we've reborn the world for ourselves, and we've given ourselves a new insight and a new reality, and that reality is that the world that we woke up in which we perceived as a world of fragmentation, is indeed not fragmented. And perhaps we can see a little bit past the physicality of it and the materiality of it to sense an essence that while we can't see it, we know it's there. We'll say the next line together. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuso Leolam Va'ed. That we say we baruch, which means extend and actualize the insight that we've generated for ourselves to know that everything is a true oneness and a true unity and an expression of the essence, and that while we perceive multiplicity in this world, it is imbued with an ultimate essence that is unified, that we spent even a moment interacting with. And the Kabbalists tell us that the more we generate for ourselves this reality, and the more we engage with the duality of Hashem Elikim, and we try to unify it in our minds, we try to really sense it's how it works, how opposite forces can work together and expressing one essence. That in fact, the more we go throughout our day and we experience difficulties or struggles or tests, the more we experience times in which God does not seem present, the more we can create for ourselves a reality in which we realize that, so to speak, lack of presence is actually an essential presence. And that while we might, experience things throughout our day that present like tests, or we might experience things that present like a total lack of godliness at all, we might find ourselves in the void where we don't perceive any essence, any unifying force. The more we spend we spend time trying to unify within our mind, creating what the Kabbalists call Achdus Hashem, the unity of God, which is a reality that we create specifically in our minds to make it real for our human experience in this world. The more we can transcend our limitations and not be thrown by whatever comes our way. Meaning, we might take a bad spill in the snow coming out from the grocery store, and we might feel like God is messing with us, or that God wasn't even there. But the more we can create a unified reality in our mind, the more we'll experience daily life as a unified reality as well. And we should all, God should bless us all that we have a taste of that today. And like we said before, this insight that we generate is not only for our own day and for our own experience, but is in fact to infuse us that we should spread goodness and kindness and treat our fellows with a little more niceness and goodness than we think we're able to. So everybody should have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.